In this book, he talks about ego lives in every aspect of our growth, whether it's personally, professionally. Us as an amateur, right? I don't want to do it because I don't want to fail. That's ego talking to you. Okay, what's up, everyone? We are back again. Myself, Gia, with 6 a.m. Artist Map. We got Gino, aka aitxE, so Faculty of Electronic Music. Kevin Ching, aka SVS, 6 a.m. Content Director, Artist Map Community Manager, also a DJ producer. Uh, Hey, how's that signing coming along?
It's coming. It's just an interesting scenario. I thankfully you guys are here to walk me through it because it was definitely not something that you could it's not a scenario that you would typically find on the internet. So it's like, what do I do? And you guys both have the experience with it. It helped me out a lot.
For sure.
Maybe we can
Well,
talk about that another time. Yeah.
exactly. Well, whenever that is like fully confirmed, we will have to do an episode of it. But I think you should also credit, not only to us, but I think you have read some books that you mentioned, have helped you along the way. And for any of you guys that have enrolled in Artist Map Phase One, at the very end of it, I share about I think $10, or maybe five. I could be wrong. Sorry, between $5 to $10 that really kind of emphasizes what we teach, mostly on mindset and approach, and they're just essential for really anyone that's in this industry, whether you're an artist or a promoter or a label owner or any industry people. So for this episode, actually we wanted to share a couple books that we would like to recommend to the artist community, or really anyone in the industry that's looking to gain a deeper perspective on what it really takes to go through, for lack of a better word, obstacles, hardships and challenges, which I feel like sometimes all we're really talking about here is how to figure out the hardships and challenges, how to get signed to a label, what to do when there's a dead period in your artist journey, how do you go through it. And it's not things that we kind of just made up. It's one, through our own experiences, and two, I do have to credit it's the books I've been reading since 2016. I think that's when I started really heavily diving into books. So without further ado, Kevin, I'll let you start, and then we'll go with you, Gino, in terms of a couple books you guys would recommend, and we will link it in the description of the YouTube video. So be sure to check out those links. Yeah, if you want to purchase them, I think they're absolutely critical in the way that it'll shape your artist journey and your whole mindset.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with The Obstacle is the Way, which is actually kind of what got me started on a whole reading kick. I'll be honest.
Who's the author?
It is, I have Ryan Holiday.
Yeah,
there you go.
Ryan
So
Holiday.
I have the book right there. So it's actually funny because I actually pretty much hated reading my entire life until Gia actually gave me this book as a gift. And for some reason, whatever it is, maybe it's his writing style or maybe it was what he was talking about. It was super interesting. Essentially, when he says obstacle is the way, he kind of reformats your thinking to make you realize that hardships are actually a good thing. And when you have an obstacle, it actually makes you better. He goes into it and he talks about different examples throughout history. Very interesting. It kind of makes you get into that mindset of, even if something is really difficult, that actually makes you better. And it actually is a good thing to kind of switch that thing. Now, of course, not to say like, oh, you should, run into a wall and everything will be great. It's more just like how to reframe yourself so that way when you do hit these obstacles, then you can actually persevere, get better, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I like to add in that book. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. Like in that book, he gives different real life scenarios of emperors, celebrities, athletes that we know. Then they use different tactics to go through their obstacles. One of them is literally, he talks about being patient, do nothing, just let time do its thing, and that obstacle will pass. And sometimes when I think about the 6 a.m. journey, it's like, dude, it really is that. It just took time before everyone was like, oh, you're still around. Okay, let's work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so just wanted to dump that in.
Yeah, pretty much any Ryan Holiday, but I've pretty much read all his books now because of that.
Yeah.
When people hear about that, they're like, "Wait, what? You read books now?" So it's kind of a funny thing. So I'd recommend pretty much every single Ryan Holiday book out there. Ryan Holiday, if you want to join us, that'd be great.
Right. We'll tag him on the hashtag.
Exactly. Yeah, tag him. And then the other one is Art of the Impossible. Essentially, it's a book that kind of breaks down how high performance athletes, how the most creative minds get into their best creative self, and how they set themselves up to be as creative as possible. And then if you're a big super nerd, it does go into the actual science behind creativity and how these certain factors actually help you become, like, think outside of the box, do creative stuff, do even crazier things, and how these people have done impossible things that were once thought impossible, how they've been able to create techniques for themselves to actually do the impossible. So, and it becomes an art. So
yeah, who's the author, by the way?
You know what? I forgot his name.
Oh my God. All right.
Impossible. let me.
One day, Kevin, someone's going to play your track and they're going to be like, hey,
Stephen Collar, there you go. Yeah, like,
who's the producer? Yeah, yeah. I know the track name, but the artist name, just giving you shit.
Putting us on the spot, huh?
Stephen Kotler, that's the guy's name. He's a great artist. He's a great
yeah.
author.
We'll be sure to give all the authors credit below. So I'm just giving you shit, man.
As you should.
All right, Gino. Or is that it, Kevin? I don't know. Do we set 2 to 3?
Yeah, that's okay. Pretty much it. I mean, and then the 10 Ryan Holiday books that are out there.
Yeah, stop mentioning it because one of them is his book as well. But yeah.
So I guess the first one I'd start with is Neil Strauss's The Game, which is The Art of Seduction. But essentially, you could apply what you learn in the book because it's selling yourself, understanding when somebody's interested in you, how to approach somebody, which is really important, whether you want to approach a booker or an agent or a club owner or anyone.
Or label owner.
Label owner doesn't exactly. At the end of the day, you're selling yourself to whomever, right? So the book, it talks about selling yourself, dealing with people that are hard to approaching people that have a tough exterior.
They have their guards up, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Approaching people that are within a group. It's really amazing. And it deals with the psychology behind it as well. So I read that book like 13 years ago, maybe, and still to this day, I come back to it and refer to it when I'm doing things in life or having to deal with a tough situation with somebody. So I definitely recommend that book. I mean, it may have some controversy to it because at the end of the day, it's The Art of Seduction. But if you look at it and you read between the lines, you could really apply it in your daily life.
Nice.
That's by Neil Strauss.
Neil Strauss.
One would be 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic book. Like you had said at one point, it does come off a little bit
dark, evil.
Dark, yeah, in a sense. But again, it's about reading between the lines, which you have to do with everything in life. And that one, it'll give examples of how to attain power in all situations and conversations with people in business and life and everything. And then it gives examples of kings and emperors and people like soldiers and whatnot in the past. And then it gives an interpretation of the scenario in the past, which is really amazing. And you could actually find that book even on Spotify, which is great.
Audiobook, yeah.
As an audiobook. So that one I'm currently really enjoying, and you can apply it again in all scenarios because the point of it is that every conversation you have with anybody is a form of dominance. Not even if you're listening to them and whatnot, it's all aspects of that becomes dominance. It's human nature. And by learning how to, I guess, always be dominant and win a certain scenario, you always have the best outcome for yourself, which in business, it's a part of the game. So I would truly.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from this is, I think it's understanding your value and stuff. And I think, like a good part of that is really, using the concepts, applying the book, and not to use it in a malicious way. Because for me, where it got dark was like, oh man, I could totally see scam artists or people that are slick, using this information for the wrong approach or the wrong intentions can really, that's why they do exist out there. But I think if you're able to kind of, all right, understand that these forces are there, but then do it in a way where you're not intentionally trying to screw other people. And, you know, there's a fine line between that. So that's my biggest takeaway, you know, because at the same time, sometimes if you're just, I don't know, if you're too direct with your approach, you know, that can also have the repercussions.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of like being a superhero.
Yeah, dude, you're right.
You're given these ideas, these superpowers in a sense, and now what you do with them for the good or for the evil.
Absolutely. That's a good one. I think a lot of Robert Greene's book, it kind of puts you in that position. Well, now you have this information. Which side, you know, do you want to play on? And the interesting fact is Robert Greene is actually Ryan Holiday's mentor. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And I'll add one more quick is, I'm sure this is a popular one, but Crushing It by Gary Vee.
Yeah. One of them.
And what I love about that is he just takes tons of scenarios of people who turned their side job into a full-time job and killed it, and what was their marketing approach. So it's a fantastic book if you want to learn how to market yourself, that's for sure. So
for sure.
Push that one as well.
Yeah, Gary Vee is always very blunt. I'm sure in that book he's literally shouting at you in that book. But I mean, it's no frills though. I mean, he's really more of like, dude, like stop being scared, just do it. And like, if you're not gonna do it, but then you're stuck in that same situation or you're complaining, then you can only blame yourself. So cool. No, those are good. All right, my turn. And I feel like we should do more of these book club episodes, because I feel like one is not enough. There's so many books that can apply in different ways. And hearing both of your suggested readings, you know, I came up with 3 that I feel like would really supplement well. Number 1 is The War of Art. If you can see my screen, I actually Googled it before. Not to be confused with The Art of War, all right? It's The War of Art. I'm just going to show you the screen. Looks like this, right? And the whole point of the book, it labels our procrastination. It labels that feeling within us of like we want to do something, but we're not doing it. It's called a resistance. And in this entire book, he teaches you how he overcame his own resistance of actually writing books, like being a book author. You know, and what are the struggles and why the resistance are there and how to combat it. And it's really to help any creative. Really, I feel like anybody that is pushing for more or that has a side project, but they're just like stuck or they're scared or they're pushing things off. This book teaches you a very practical way on how to stop thinking so much, overanalyzing, and just get to the doing of it. And he shares his own story that he didn't write and finish his first book until he was 47. And then he became a New York Times bestselling when he was like 50. And then he wrote apparently, you know, 95% of his books after he was 50 years old. So, you know, he clearly struggled a lot with his own resistance. And so he shares a lot of this with the audience. And man, it is a tremendous book. If you're ever feeling stuck or, you know, needing just some sort of perspective on how to beat your own procrastination and how to beat that uncomfortable feeling of, it's a little bit of fear too, right? Fear of doing. It just procrastinates you. And that's a number 1 to recommended on Artist Map Phase 1, because you got to shake that off in order to take the first step. Number 2, it's a Ryan Holiday book. Oh, actually, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, in case I didn't mention that. The second one is a Ryan Holiday book. It's called Ego is the Enemy. And I think it's really important for everyone in the industry to read the book, because I believe everyone in the industry has a fucking ego. That is, you know, when I think about myself in my 20s and early 30s, dude, disgusting. I hated who I was. A lot of ego, a lot of like just very self-absorbed thoughts and actions and stuff, right? Everyone in this industry is ultimately the same. Oh, where's my gig? How about my label? How about my brand? How about, you know, my party? Everything's mine, you know, it's about me and all this, not realizing that, dude, you know, ego is the enemy, man. It hinders your growth. You see it in this industry, how ego just destroys teams, it destroys relationships, it destroys your own journey. And in this book, he talks about ego lives in every aspect of our growth, whether it's personally, professionally, us as an amateur, right? I don't want to do it because I don't want to fail. That's ego talking to you, right? As you're doing it, there's a different set of ego that comes arise, right? You start comparing to others. There's that form, and then even at the highest level, and it's so true. It's like we hear about it at the highest level, right? DJs refusing to get off the decks, promoters at the highest level pulling out gigs for their own sake, label managers having a completely ulterior motive for a young talent that is naive. It's ego is within us. It's natural too. We're all born with it. And so I think being aware of our own ego and understand, how it can help us and how it can destroy us. This directly affects everyone in the industry, because anyone that's ever trying to pursue something here, they have an ego, right? You want to be the headlining DJ. I want to be that badass promoter. You want to be that sick ass producer, right? Like that is in itself ego that's driving it, but there's healthy ones and there's unhealthy ones. So in that book, he crushes it. The third one, which I like to share, and I've been asked a lot of this question, is how do I find good partners in this industry? Meaning, how someone asks, how did I find Marco as a partner? Right. Or like, hey, how did you find all the people in your team? Or like, how do you guys all work together so well? And, I have to point to this book called The A Player. And this is for anybody, artists, creatives, industry person that's looking to build your own team, because whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, you can only do it by yourself for a certain period before you need a team of people, whether it's additional partners, staff that you hire, by understanding the A player philosophy, right? It will really instill a company culture that you want. And I don't want to say company culture, but even a team culture that you want to build. And it's a standard that you, as the owner of anything, should try to apply, because asking other people to be A players, to bring their best game when you yourself aren't bringing your best game, that's not going to make you a good leader. So that is, I would say, is the foundational book. And as you're looking for partners, ask yourself, does this potential partner have all the qualities of this A player, of me, right? Of you, Gino, of you, Kevin, right? Later on, when you build your own team and stuff, like I always talk about it, like, well, are you being the best version of yourself, so that when you bring other people's along, it's not they're helping you, they're just contributing to what you have already built and the standards you have already set. And I wish I read that book earlier, man, because I went through a lot of people at 6 a.m. that, like, I felt like if that book was first read, I would have caught a lot of the red flags. But now, that's become sort of our company culture in terms of,
So,
yeah.
does the book like help give tips on how to read people to know you're making the right decision to join your team?
No, dude. That's why, I would then recommend The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, another thick one. That one, for a good 2 months of my life, I couldn't hang out with my friends because all I was doing was observing their behaviors, and it was kind of unhealthy. But The Laws of Human Nature, would be able to help you kind of analyze. And the one biggest takeaway from that book is actions over words, which is actually part of our team culture at 6 a.m. is that, dude, anybody can be like, yeah, G, I got it. Yeah, dude, I got it. Yeah, we'll get it done. But I'm only looking at actions and results, and how consistent is that action versus their words. So, if there's one way to quickly decipher people, is just pay attention to see if they're living in dissonance between their actions and their words. I battle with that every day with myself, actually. It's like, oh, I shouldn't be smoking this bowl. But then, but it's human nature, man. It's, it's the law, right? When you grew up undisciplined by your parents because they're always at work, it's harder to discipline yourself as an adult. I mean, it's a self-reflection, a self-awareness that I had to kind of like, oh, this is why it's so hard.
That's great. Okay, that's a good book.
Yeah, man, no, for sure. And this is why I said it's important for us to have more of these book club calls and stuff, because I feel like there's so many different layers that we can unveil, and even practical and tactical books, right? I think a lot of the ones we share today, they're very philosophical, right? Get your mind right, how to read people, um, you know, understand that there's ego within us, how to channel that. And then I think for the next book club, we should talk about like real practical books. Like, hey, I'm reading one on how to lead a team. Like this literally gives you the formula on how to lead a team. This gives you the formula on how to make your own schedule for time management, or you can just enroll in our course, which will be coming out soon. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And hey, guys. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to point out one thing for guys who were like me before this year. Reading is extremely important for just the creative process. Once again, to go back to the Art of Impossible book, Stephen Collar talks about how like your brain needs that additional knowledge, and it doesn't get it from TV, doesn't get it from just kind of mindless like vegging out. Like your brain needs to have that exercise, and the best way to do that is reading. He kind of goes into the reasons why and the whole chemical process behind it and the scientific facts, but the general idea is that if you read more, then your brain gets more exercise, and it's just like your body. The more exercise you get, the more efficient it gets.
100%. And honestly, it's how I became, I wouldn't say I'm a good writer, but it's how I got better in writing, or at least became more bold and just understanding all the different writing styles. You don't always have to start with something so formal. Like in all these books, like they sometimes kick off their chapter with something so informal, so it definitely helps. And yeah, look, one of my favorite sayings is this: a person who doesn't read only lives one life, and the person that reads can live up to 100, 1,000 lives, right? Because we're living through the perspective of all these different stories, through these different perspectives, and it can only be done by reading. So make time for that.
VR is going to change that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for all tuning in, or thank you everyone, I should say, for tuning in to this book club edition series. Hopefully this will be the first of many. If you did want to take a look at the books or purchase them or start an audiobook, all the links are below with the proper title, the proper author, and the links where you can purchase the book. So we do encourage all of you to make time to read. It's only going to help you with gaining a wider perspective, and hopefully it'll help you with your journey in the crazy electronic music industry that we're in.
And maybe one thing to add real quick before we end is what you told me earlier. If you're having trouble reading or turning it into a habit, to do it an hour before bed.
Yeah.
Right? Turning off the phone and just making it the last thing you do before you fall asleep.
Yeah.
Even if it's 20 minutes. I think that's it's something I'm gonna try to implement in my life.
Awesome, man. Hell yeah. And let me know how that goes. Cool. Well, that's it for this week's episode. I'm Gia with 6 a.m. Artist Map. Got Gino, aka Atrox from Faculty of Electronic Music, and Kevin Ching, SVS, 6 a.m. Content Director, Artist Map Community Manager, and an aspiring DJ producer. All right. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.